The wolf potters around his new cottage, half unpacked boxes stacked here and there. The cottage was a real find, sold by some old grandmother that wanted to move into the village to be closer to her family. The cottage stands under an ancient oak tree. Even now, in the early autumn air, the leaves in the upper canopy are starting to turn from lush green to golden yellow. The thatched roof is cut into neat little scallops above the whitewashed stone walls. A large hydrangea bush with the last of the summer's blue blooms is planted by the front door. An old rose bush climbs up the outer wall under the window. The wooden front door bears a knocker in the shape of a honeybee. Inside the neat cottage is a living room dominated by a large fireplace. Off this room is a sun-filled kitchen where the wolf is currently employed in trying to figure out where he accumulated 2 toast racks. In the living room are beautifully carved stairs that lead to the bedroom, complete with a large 4-poster bed. The wolf hasn't even begun to think about unpacking up there yet. Kitchen first, he's decided, then the living room. More than likely, he'll just end up shoving the bags of clothing off the bed and sleeping in his messy room for tonight. Nevertheless, he is blissfully happy at the moment. Outside the open kitchen window, a lark sings brightly. The wolf looks out to admire the old apple tree in the backyard. At that moment, a bit of movement catches his eye. He could swear that something pink just flashed through the underbrush and away. The wolf shrugs and goes back to stacking his teacups neatly in his new cupboard. A few minutes later, the wolf looks up again, having heard a noise that is most certainly not a lark. Something fairly large was definitely pulled through the bushes and out of sight just as the wolf looked up. The wolf tries to remember what the estate agent told him about the neighborhood. It was something about the neighboring plots of land in the woods being sold off to a set of siblings that intended to build little cottages of their own. The wolf suddenly had a marvelous idea. He has a wealth of knowledge about construction, building, and woodworking. He will go over and introduce himself to his new neighbors, offering his services should they ever need them. Surfing the wave of excitement, the wolf looks around hurriedly in the boxes. he shouldn't arrive empty-handed, and he wants to bring them some gifts that will showcase his skills. Finally, he digs out 3 beautiful candle holders, decorated with carved vines and flowers that the wolf made himself. The perfect housewarming gifts. The wolf closes his front door behind him, happy for the chance to get out and explore the woods. As he walks down the path and through the trees, he admires the way the sunlight filters through the leaves and falls like golden raindrops on the ground. The smell of fresh air, warm earth, and late summer flowers winds through the air and around him. The wolf stops for a moment and takes a couple of steps off the path. He's found a thicket of blackberry brambles, heavy with purple berries. The wolf spends several blissful moments eating a few handfuls of the sweet fruit. He is sure to leave plenty for the birds and other animals of the woods before returning to the path. It's not long before he arrives at a small wildflower meadow. The tall grass and blooms reach up to his thighs. The flowers are every shade of blue, purple, pink, red, and orange. They sway in the wind, as if waving to him in greeting. On one side of the meadow, many hay bales are stacked, as if they have just been delivered. Curious, the wolf steps forward to investigate. In the middle of the meadow, there are 4 stakes in the ground to demark 4 corners. The wolf can see other, smaller sticks with lengths of twine running between them. The wolf studies this for several minutes before realizing that this must be the floor plan for a cottage. He looks back to the hay bales. A cottage made of hay. But how would a builder make a roof or attach the bales together? The wolf contemplates the problem for some time, while busy bumblebees float from flower to flower in the meadow. Finally, the wolf claps his hands as an idea hits him. Being very strong, he starts picking up hay bales 4 at a time and placing them. He works quickly, and before even an hour has passed, he has stacked them so as to make an A-frame house. The pyramid-like structure will keep the rain out, while being sturdy enough to withstand even the worst of the autumn's storms. Satisfied with his work, the wolf leaves one of his candlesticks in front of the house and continues down the path. For a moment, the wolf wonders if he sees another flash of pink on the other side of the meadow, but decides it must be a wildflower. The path leads out of the meadow and back into the trees. The wolf becomes aware of a cheerful little stream burbling somewhere off to one side of the path. It isn't long before he finds the next building site. In a small clearing sits a huge stack of sticks. The clearing itself is quite lovely. Large maple trees sit around its border, and the stream cuts through one side. The bank of the stream is paved with large moss-covered stones. A frog ribbits to itself on one of the larger stones. The wolf looks at the sticks and the spool of rough twine that comes up to his waist. None of the sticks are very strong or thick, but a fair few of them appear to be very long. They seem to be pieces of young, flexible willow branches. The wolf measures the clearing using his long strides and does some quick calculations. He supposes that there is no harm in getting the house started while his new neighbour is out. The wolf creates a large circle with the longer sticks. He then uses the twine to weave them together at the top, creating a circular dome-like structure. The rest of the sticks are woven between these main supports, with an opening left for a door. The wolf makes the entire structure watertight by taking moss from the stream and filling in the gaps. Finally, the wolf weaves together a door and hangs it in the opening. Standing back to admire his handiwork, the wolf imagines what the house will look like come spring. Because all the sticks are young willow branches, they will spend the autumn and winter rooting down into the soil. When the weather warms up again, the living willow house will start to sprout new leaves, covering the structure in the bright green of new growth. The wolf makes a mental note to come back and see the result in 6 months' time. He leaves another candlestick in front of the new door. Straightening up, his ears flick towards a corner of the clearing for a moment, at the sound of something dashing out of sight before he can turn around. The wolf shrugs to himself. There are plenty of living things in the forest. It must have been a bird or a mouse. Again, the wolf continues along the path in search of his new neighbours. The sun is past its midday point now, but there are still several long hours until sunset. As the wolf follows the path, he comes across a small wooden bridge over the stream. He stops on the bridge and looks down into the clear waters. Beneath the surface, he can see small, silvery fish darting here and there, feeding on the nutrients brought down by the current. A patch of yellow irises on the bank of the stream attracts butterflies who flutter back and forth between periods of rest on the colourful blooms. Dragonflies zoom up and down the stream, iridescent in the afternoon sun. A few eager trees have started turning their leaves from the green of summer to the warm tones of autumn. The wolf looks forward to sitting in a chair outside his cottage and watching the woods prepare for winter. The wolf crosses the bridge and ventures along the path. He is certain he must be getting close to the edge of the woods. A few miles beyond the woods sits a small village, which the wolf passed through while moving to his cottage. The cobbled streets are lined with Tudor-style houses, all sitting snuggled next to one another. The village square features a small well that is always decorated with seasonal flowers, brightly coloured strips of fabric, and silver bells that jingle merrily in the breeze. The wolf turns a bend in the path to find a little girl sitting on a tree stump. She wears a bright red cloak with a hood and carries a basket loaded to the brim with pastries and sweets. She sits with her head in one hand. When the wolf comes closer, she perks up immediately and jumps off her stump. She explains in the very quick tones of young children everywhere that she's trying to get to her granny's house to deliver some goodies, but stopped here because she remembered that her mother had told her something changed about Granny's house. She's been sitting on this stump for an hour, trying to remember what it was her mother said. Was it that Granny's house had shrunk, or the house had been turned into a giant shoe? Perhaps she said something about the house being made out of candy. The wolf smiles kindly and asks the little girl if perhaps her mother told her that her granny had moved into the village. The little girl's face breaks into a wide grin, and she begins to jump up and down with joy. That's exactly what her mother told her. She thanks the wolf and offers him an apple pastry for his help. The little girl waves goodbye to the wolf and skips down the path without a look back, humming a sweet little tune to herself. The wolf sits down in her spot on the stump and takes a bite of the apple pastry. It's made with the very first of the apples, which are slightly tart but work beautifully with the sweet cinnamon sugar filling. The entire pastry is wrapped in a buttery, crumbly crust. Before he knows it, the pastry is gone, and the wolf is licking his lips in satisfaction. He gets up to continue his search for at least one neighbour. The path winds easily through the trees. Sweet birdsong drifts on the breeze and chases the wolf along his sun-dappled way. The path does indeed lead to the edge of the forest. The larger, older trees give way to younger vegetation. Eventually, the wolf comes out on the top of a hill that overlooks the little village. The path forks here. One side goes down the hill and through the village. The other curves away along the edge of the forest to a quaint little brick cottage. Assuming that this must be his final neighbour, the wolf heads in that direction. As he nears, he catches a glimpse of pink in one of the upper windows of the building. The front door is made from aged wood with a stout iron knocker. The wolf raps on the door a few times and waits patiently, enjoying the feeling of the late afternoon sun on his long, pointed ears. It's only a few moments before those keen ears pick up the sound of feet on the other side of the door. It opens to reveal a small pig, dressed smartly in a shirt and trousers. The pig looks the wolf up and down before smiling broadly. The little pig asks the wolf if he is the one that has been going through the forest, building such delightful houses. The wolf gladly takes responsibility. Around the first pig lean two other pigs, one dressed in overalls and the other in a plaid shirt and jeans. All three pigs smile at the wolf and speak over one another about the beautiful houses the wolf has built. The first pig reveals that his brothers, upon seeing the wolf's handiwork, ran all the way to his cottage to tell him about it. The pigs invite the wolf in cheerfully and insist that he stay for dinner. The wolf is happy to finally be able to hand over his last candlestick to the first pig, who takes it while exclaiming at the craftwork. The three little pigs and their new friend bustle around the cottage in preparation for dinner. They have the wolf take the scrubbed wooden table outside and set it up in the garden. The three little pigs talk over one another, constantly filled with laughter and jokes. They prepare a dinner, set the table, and make sure that the wolf's drink is constantly filled to the brim. Finally, just as the sun is beginning its descent, the group is ready to sit down to dinner. There is a huge salad made from fresh vegetables harvested from the garden, an enormous spinach quiche, and freshly squeezed lemonade. The table is set with a beautiful vintage tablecloth the color of milk. It is embroidered with images of summer fruits. The wolf's candlestick sits at the place of pride in the middle of the table, with a long green candle burning in it. They all cheer for the final days of summer. The friends enjoy their meal. The three little pigs regale their new neighbor with nothing but tall tales about their various adventures. The youngest brother pig, whose house is the one made from hay, has spent years working on farms all over the world. He knows how to grow practically anything. His connections in the farming industry allowed him to secure so much hay for free. But for a number of days, he'd been struggling with how to make it into a house. He promises the wolf the best of his garden harvests every year in return for his lovely new home. The middle brother pig is a botanist who studies plants scientifically. He has some friends who maintain a large plot of land that has a lake and willow trees. These friends had to prune some of the willow trees to promote the tree's health, and gave the pig all the cuttings. He laughs to himself as he tells the wolf how hopeless he was in the face of trying to make a house out of sticks. He promises his new wolf friend that he will tell him all the best camping spots every summer. The oldest brother pig says he is just happy that they have landed such a gracious and helpful neighbor. The oldest pig reveals that he is a business pig. He tells the wolf to let him know if he wants to sell any of his carvings and crafts. The oldest pig promises to help get his wares to market. They all say cheers once more to friendship and clink their lemonade glasses together. They enjoy the view over the valley, marveling at their luck and savouring this last of the warm days. The golden light of the sleepy sun casts a yellow blanket over the land. Even the bricks of the oldest pig's cottage seem to glow with a fiery inner light. The sky seems to spread out forever, meeting the landscape on a faraway horizon. The sun makes a break for the horizon, casting a trail of oranges, yellows, pinks, and purples on the fluffy clouds. As the friends watch, the clouds crawl across the sky, morphing ever so slightly to become yet another shape. The sun touches the edge of the world and dips down. The new friends laugh and drink and eat, knowing that this is the beginning of something as beautiful as the sunset.